Oi, hello. So today, for this episode, we're going to talk about a topic. We might combine a couple, but we'll try to stick to one. It might be a shorter episode. Today, we're going to talk about, we'll start general and then we'll move to specific. Our favorite thing to do on a weekly basis, but that we have to do, which is go to the grocery store. It's the only place where I can find my sweet, sweet Coulters. First of all, why did they say inflation was only 8% when food went up like 40%? I don't know if all of you know how this works, but inflation is a measurement of the increase in prices based on a fixed basket of goods determined by the government, which will include things like food, energy, clothing, energy being, electricity and fuel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they say the average increase in those prices is, whatever it was the worst over the last couple of years, like 7-8%, which is insane. It's like triple what it should be. But now, are we not weighting these things properly? Because like food went up 40%. I used to be able to I live alone with a kid that forgets to eat some of her meals. Like, I don't need to buy $400 of groceries a week. I used to be able to get away with like 120. It would be like a reasonable grocery run at $120. Jesus, 10 years ago, I was targeting to spend only $100 on food a week in groceries. And I was accomplishing that goal. Now it's minimum 150. Minimum. Everything got wildly expensive. I'll give you an example. One thing I bought for years, it's not the best orange juice, but it's the orange juice I like, and screw you, is Tropicana's vitamin C fortified orange juice. I use it to make my fruit smoothies during the week. It used to be you could find some for like $6 for not a gallon. It was like 2 point something liters. $6 at the discount grocery store, like right by my house. Again, we have discount brands in Canada, so the mainstay being Loblaws and their discount brand being Maxi. There is no Loblaws near my house. There's a Metro and there's a Maxi, and the Maxi is 20% cheaper than the Metro. And for anything that isn't like fresh produce or something where you need the higher quality, if it's just the same boxed food from one place to another, I'm going to go to the discount place because I'm cheap. That same bottle of orange juice now is like $9. From before the pandemic to after, it's $9 now. Some stuff I think has kind of evened it out, but not to the same degree as things have gone up in price. It's what? A box of chicken nuggets is now $15. $15 for friggin' breaded chicken paste. Wild. Insane. I'd have to check the ingredients. It might not even be chicken. It might be from the SPCA. Who knows? The Coulters. Used to find them for $8.99. Now minimum $11. And this isn't real stuff. This is made in a chemical vat. Used to clean, goose shit off airplanes. One side is goose shit cleaner and the other side's this. So going to the grocery store, a lot more expensive these days, which is frustrating. Already you're grumpy going in. You got to start in the produce area. You move on over to like cleaners and all that stuff. You do all the groceries. Now, we're not going to talk about the fact that I love big box grocery stores. there is always 9 cash registers, of which 4 are open. Where are all the other cash? Like, I know where, but even before the pandemic, before there was this whole crunch on supply of labor and you couldn't find workers because everybody just wants to stay home and try to do crypto all day or sell pictures of their butthole online. Before that, there was 9 registers and maybe 5 were open. And I always try to schedule my shopping such that I don't go during a rush. Sometimes it's unavoidable and I go during a rush. And you're sitting there waiting in line, and we won't get into the morons that, have to do all the couponing, or if the store, God forbid, has a price matching policy, have to spend 47 minutes with the cashier showing them the deal available, 80 miles away that they could have bought, and that they should get the cheaper price where they're buying now, even though if they had to pay the gas to get that 80 miles, it would end up more expensive. I'm going off on a tangent. People are idiots. Who I do feel sorry for is the workers. I mean, the workers, what a brutal job. Standing 8 hours, dealing with dum-dums, including myself, trying to buy their food, not quite sure, why their food is running up so expensive, and they're getting paid $10 an hour to just move it down the line, and they're understaffed. Not a job I would ever want. So there's all of that, but in the world of technological innovation and the eventual replacement of humans, one thing has started really to become a mainstay in grocery stores now, and Walmarts, and interestingly, not Costco, and I hope never Costco, and that is the self-checkout. I'll speak about my personal experience. The store where I usually shop at had a self-checkout that was relatively efficient before. You would go in, you would scan your items, you put them in your basket or your bag, and you would go away. At that point, the biggest frustration was obviously people who didn't understand that, you had to do basically the same thing that the cashier had always done, and you had to just pay attention. And they would get confused about why their item doesn't scan even though the barcode is facing away from the scanner. They would get confused about where to put their stuff. They would get confused if they they just didn't understand. Pass the barcode over the little red light, wait for a beep, put the thing down in your bag. That's the way the system works. That was it for a while, and I'd get really grumpy about, people taking too long, and I would kind of mutter to myself in the line and go, what is wrong with you? How do you drive? Do you need help breathing? It was like instructional videos on how to breathe. But since then, a couple of things occurred. One, at the grocery store near my house, they started putting an item limit on self-checkout. Why? Wouldn't you want the least items to go to the cashier so that it's fast, and then whoever has the most to do the self-checkout so that everybody can mutter at them? Or if you have coupons, you have to go to the I think it's still, if you have coupons, you have to go to the cashier. But yeah, they started putting this item, and at my grocery store, they are militantly enforcing that. And you know what? I don't blame them, because I think they also feel the squeeze that they're getting replaced by this technology. But they start putting like a very low, it's like 20 items. And if you think you buy for like 4 cans of soup, a couple of vegetables, maybe a box of crackers, like you'll get in a week, for a week's groceries, you'll get 20 items pretty fast. Now, I guess I'm the kind of guy that buys groceries once a week, And I know that there are some people, families that go every couple of days. They kind of just fill up on the fresh stuff. And that's where the self-checkout can be very useful. But the other thing that occurred is they started introducing these kind of security scales into the store. So when you scan the item, you have to put it in a particular spot, and you have to, first of all, register that you've put a bag there, and then put it in your bag in that particular spot, or else you can't scan the next item, because it's trying to like, I know the technology is saying I've scanned this, I need to read it in the loading area. That is just a recipe for disaster. That never works right. The first time I encountered that was at Walmart. What a disaster. I needed help a whole bunch of times just because I don't know if the scale was miscalibrated. I would scan, I would put it in the area, and it would say doesn't register, and it was insane. And at Walmart, you also have the thing that's recording your face the entire time you're there, which is that legal? Like, are they allowed to just take pictures of your face like that close? I know there's security cameras, but I guess it's legal. I know that there's been people that have been accused of stealing in Walmart down in the States that didn't actually steal, that actually paid for their items, and Walmart still tried to prosecute them and had to be told by like judges to like let it go, that they didn't actually do it, that there was proof. But yeah, self-checkout is something that's proliferating now in the world. And, you know, coming back to the topics that we often cover of knowing how to interact with other human beings, self-checkout isn't helping us learn that lesson. Now it's to the point where at like Walmart, I don't think there is many cash registers left. I think it's mostly self-checkout. They don't want to be employing people. But that's Walmart. I mean, who's surprised that Walmart wants to get rid of humanity? As Walton once said, or famously said, stock 'em cheap, stack 'em deep. So, it's not a company that particularly cares about service. It's just, I hate the machines now. I hate the experience. You're always going to get the people that, on top of the machines and on top of the logic, they'll still be confused by the self-checkout. They won't understand what to do. The best is, as a non-drinker, watching people buy alcohol at a self-checkout, because you know that the machine is set to have an associate, like a supervisor, ensure that the person buying the alcohol is of legal age before the purchase can be completed. Why doesn't it say on the self-checkout line, if you are buying wine, beer, or spirits, you must go to a cashier? Like, why are those items able to go through self-checkout, period? It should be at the cashier. You want to get drunk, it's a legally restricted item, you need to go to a cashier. By that same token, they do sell, Tylenol and cold medicine. Those should have to go to a cashier. God forbid a meth head walks in and buys, 47 bottles of Tylenol, or a painkiller addict. And because there's no rule about what can or cannot go through. That's the thing. There's no rule about what can or cannot go through a self-checkout line, but there's rules on item limits and there's rules on where you put the things. I don't know. The grocery store is just not a great experience. Not fun. For all the guys that have their wives doing the groceries every week, you should kiss your wife on the forehead every time she comes home, because it's just, as a single parent, not enjoyable. Not enjoyable. It's too expensive. The store I go to often, because it's a discount grocery store, often, dicey stocking practices. In other words, you're never sure what's going to actually be stocked for that week, even in standardized items. Costco famously, right? Like if it's some of one of those off-kilter Costco items, they I think since they opened, they told you that it's not necessarily every single time that we'll have the same stuff, because we look for a certain, discount on things. That's what I remember anyways. But the grocery store is supposed to have the same stuff week after week, and even then they struggle. The one that I go to, sometimes I have to go to the nicer grocery store to find some things. And we're not talking like weird things. We're talking very standard things. So anyways, not a fun experience. And to have it all end with a robot yelling at you, and then 3 other people around you that are confused about how to buy a head of broccoli, not great.